Thank you, Madam Chair, Ranking Member, and members of the committee for this opportunity to be here today and with my distinguished panelists. I also speak on my own behalf and not for Brookings. The dramatic growth in natural gas reserves and production in the United States over the last 5 years has resulted in economic growth, relative reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, and greater energy security. Every credible estimate of our future energy supply suggests we will have exportable surpluses of natural gas for decades to come. This bounty could enhance our national power by positioning our nation as a reliable supplier of natural gas to regions of the world that suffer from intimidation from their suppliers or simply the economy-crushing burden of oil-linked prices. The question before us is not whether we have this geopolitical potential, but whether we will realize it in time to help our friends and allies. Countries enhance their national power when they act as reliable suppliers of strategic commodities to the global market. This power can be wielded for good to stabilize markets and create competitive prices, but it can also be wielded for ill, as we have seen with Russia using its market power to intimidate its neighbors. The U.S. can be a strategic supplier to the global gas market. While our government doesn't dictate where that supply will go, it does control how fast we will connect to the global market. The Natural Gas Act has inadvertently put our friends and allies, those who don't have free trade agreements with us, at the back of the line. In addition, the process and the tempo for reviewing these exports to LNG countries that we don't have free trade agreements with is potentially out of sync with commercial realities. The crisis in Ukraine should cause us to think anew on this process and see if we can leverage our natural gas bounty to help our allies by accelerating the consideration of export applications so they can plan for the day when they can reduce their reliance on Russian gas or on the oil-linked prices that are crippling their economies. In addition, we should begin now to compete actively with Russia for Asia's markets before we cede that region as well to dependence on Russian supply. While the benefits of U.S. LNG exports would be global, my remarks will focus on Europe because of the crisis in Ukraine. And they also reflect an article that I published for Brookings, which I'd also like to enter into the record. Russia's annexation of Crimea illustrates both the challenge and opportunity that we face. The challenge is grave. This Russian challenge will be with us as long as President Putin remains in power. His unabashed desire to recover territories that became independent after the fall of the Soviet Union is a threat to European security and to American leadership. The President has responded, I think, with savvy and with skill by targeting the kleptocratic inner circle that tries to use Russia's public resources for private gain. But Russia's neighbors, especially the nations of Central and Eastern Europe, remain dependent on Russian gas and Russian oil-linked supplies. Now, to address its energy insecurity, Europe has to do a lot on its own. It needs to make strides towards further integrating its gas market so it can move from point to point. It needs to promote internal market reform in member countries so someone would want to invest there. And it needs to develop further infrastructure to support alternative gas supply, interconnections among member countries, and indigenous gas development. The U.S. will also need to recommit to our Caspian policy to ensure that the southern corridor is completed and that Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan maintain their autonomy and sustain their roles as suppliers of oil and gas to Europe. We can make further integration of Europe's gas markets a key tenet of our engagement as well. But a clear signal from the U.S. that LNG exports will be available to European allies for future purchase would put immediate pressure on Russia's market share and would also help accelerate investment in and construction of gas transportation infrastructure in Europe. There are LNG import projects tabled in Lithuania, Ukraine, Poland, Croatia, and Estonia. There are interconnections planned to move gas to Poland, Latvia, and Finland. While it's no panacea, and I don't profess that it is, removing the uncertainty as to whether and when U.S. LNG export projects that contract with European buyers can get that approval will accelerate both the financing of U.S. LNG export projects and European import projects. And those who dismiss the utility of accelerating these approvals underestimate the impact it can have on eroding Russia's market power now. When we signal the availability of Henry Hub LNG pricing, it impacts price formation for the future and erodes the price Russia can get for its gas in Europe and Asia. Reducing Russia's market share in Europe makes its companies less attractive and investment in its upstream less valuable. Witness the fall in the prices of Novatek just after we announced sanctions. Markets react today to news in the future. Finally, allowing European LNG projects to access Henry Hub pricing makes those projects more financeable. It may be true that Asian buyers, rather than European buyers, buy U.S. LNG, but from a geopolitical perspective, it doesn't make a difference. Eroding Russia's Asian market share and pricing power also hurts their cash flow. The more U.S. Henry Hub price gas hits the market, the greater the bargaining power of European buyers. So, as I said at the outset, these are serious times that call for serious solutions. Having a refreshed European energy security policy and accelerated U.S. LNG exports are part of that toolbox. They may be long-term measures, but they're serious measures, and the time to get started is now.